It's bad. Anime.
All right, Rob, you ready to talk about AIDS?
Among other things, yes.
Yeah, great, because I got good news for you.
What?
Because we're going to talk about Dog Soldier today.
All right.
It's a show that nobody's heard about. It's an OVA, and it's on YouTube, and we watched it.
And this is bad anime.
And is this anime bad? I'm John. Sorry,
Rob.
what's the order?
The whole intro was yours, and you keep forgetting it.
The in-person episodes are specifically chaos, because I just want to jump out and just attack.
You want to charge in, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to charge in. Well, here you go. Okay, my name's John.
My name's Rob.
And this is Bad Anime, the show where we decide, is this anime
anime
bad?
bad?
Great, AIDS. Okay, good. Now we can talk. And
Wow,
I'm not just saying AIDS to say AIDS either. Like it's a big plot point in the show.
It's a
in the OVA.
It's a pivotal plot point in the show. Yeah,
It is.
But should we start like how this all begins? We just
Yes.
And also,
Tell
I
me-
should tell you about how I found this show.
Please do, because the first thing I saw was we were thinking of things to cover,
Yeah.
and I remember us deciding on a few other things, and then I was like, okay, we need one other thing to just like talk about, and Rob was like, okay, how about this? And he just sends me a YouTube link with the title is Dog Soldier.
Yes.
And I was like, fine, we're
gonna do this.
I'll watch it. No problem.
Something I've noticed, because I've always seen a lot of articles, and I forgot how this one crossed my pathway about a bunch of like the worst OVAs.
Oh, fun, great.
However, a lot of different outlets rank them very differently.
Okay.
So I found a link to an article featuring the worst anime OVAs according to IMDb.
Wow.
This is number one
The worst anime, really?
according to IMDb.
Wow.
But there, people have very different opinions. So,
Interesting.
but nice to see what IMDb users consider the worst, because IMDb users I think are a very different crowd than say the average Mal user.
For sure.
So I wanted to get their viewpoint and think, okay, what makes this thing particularly bad? Then I watched it, and
You quickly found out.
then I found out why someone would find this objectionable.
Okay.
So I remember vaguely coming home from work, hopping into my basement, cracking open probably, was it a Kronbach or a Bud Light? One of the two.
If it was February, it had to have been Krumbacher.
I'm trying to remember if it was the end of February or
early
early March.
March.
Yep, I don't remember. So I had that.
Yeah,
while watching
right.
this,
Okay,
and
so
then,
you had that beer.
and then a lot of my memories of the show revolve around the second half, and me going, who the fuck is this main character?
Yes. Which is good because a lot of my memories revolve around the first half.
Perfect.
So it works out.
You fire ahead then.
All right. I have no idea what the fuck they were trying to do. That is my first thing that I can tell. Well, okay, because I wasn't exactly going into it in the best state because the YouTube version of this, right?
Yeah.
The first 5 minutes
Are an ad.
is previews for other animes that they have. I didn't know that. So I was watching it and it kept switching to different title cards and different vignettes and I was like, what the hell is going on? And then it ended and it was like coming soon. I was like, oh.
That makes sense.
So it's
Yeah.
okay, ripped from like a DVD that had
Or VHS, honestly.
like coming soon to a theater near you kind of things.
Stay tuned for our featured presentation.
Exactly. Doom, doom. Like those Disney things. Yeah.
Yes.
But they had that, and then that was going into it, and I was like, okay, so I guess we'll actually get the real story now.
Yes.
And it was a weird one. So it opens up, our main character, they call him Heba for short.
Yes.
I will refer to him as Heba for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
He is in a labor camp
Yes.
of sorts, and they're smashing rocks. And
It's not really clear what they were doing to the rocks.
Yeah. Well, at one point, it comes across that Heba is from California, from Los Angeles.
Right.
And so he's an American, and I think they're in Japan.
Yes.
And one of the guys is like, oh, this job sucks. Like, I hate breaking rocks. And Heba's like, I like this job. It reminds me of the place I grew up. Did you smash rocks in L.A.?
Yeah,
like,
like,
what did you do there? That's a very weird thing to say.
Is that all LA is? A bunch of cavemen smashing rocks?
I mean, when you put it that way, I sometimes.
I mean, that's how a lot of movies are made now.
I guess so. Yeah, it's true. But that was kind of the opening scene, and then we get these army cars that come in, and
Right.
because Heba's like a special agent. He used to be this thing called a Green Beret, which was like a military officer that he quit because
Green Beret was a nom thing.
Because his like head officer told him to kill this woman and child, and he was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I've
got a moral compass.
Yeah, and he was like, well, all right then. And then his boss killed them. And then he was like, I'm quitting. But then his boss confronts him, and he's like, hey, Heba, I need you to take out this guy that's shipping the AIDS vaccine. And Heba's like, what? Like, what do you... So the story gets really muddy early on.
Yes.
When...
like, there was, like, a debate where it's like... Yeah. They were like, we have the vaccine, but we don't want anyone to know about it. It's like, excuse me?
Yeah, because there's this AIDS vaccine that will cure AIDS that I think Japan has.
Yes.
But they don't want anybody to know that they have it.
Yeah.
Because they will become the most powerful country in the world because they can cure AIDS. And... they don't want to give it to anybody else. But this other guy, Makoto.
Yes.
Makoto Ito from School Days.
Yes.
The grown-up version.
He didn't get to grow up.
I'm trying my best here. who grew up with Heba.
Okay.
And this other blonde girl.
Right. They were like the trifecta.
They were like orphans that grew up together.
Yes.
This guy, Makoto, is now a very, very wealthy arms dealer.
Yes.
And he's trying to sell this AIDS vaccine to the rest of the world to make a fuck ton of money.
Right.
And Japan's like, no. The government's like, we can't have anybody have this because then they will have it. And Makoto's like, well, don't you want to cure AIDS? And the blonde woman's all like, oh my God, Makoto. You just want to cure AIDS and stuff? You're so cool. And it turns out that he doesn't want to cure AIDS because it's a fake vaccine that he's peddling out.
Yep.
So dumb. So convoluted and silly. And this is all information that we get throughout the OVA, which is about 40 minutes, in which it's a lot to handle.
Well, the thing is that in the 40 minutes, they get preoccupied with showing us a bunch of horrible animation.
They do take their time with showing you that horrible animation.
Like, this was, I don't want to say unsettling, that's the wrong word, but this was hard to look at. I'm just like, my eyes hurt.
Yeah.
My delicate little eyes are now in pain because of how garbage this looks like.
It was generally pretty garbage in terms of animation quality. And there was this weird relationship that Heba has with, like, the blonde woman whose name I don't know, who...
Sumire?
Kathy.
Different blonde.
Kathy. Sumire.
It was Kathy.
Sumire. Her name is Kathy, which I found hilarious.
Yeah.
Because, like, Heba randomly spawns into a baseball field at one point.
Yes.
And Kathy is there with, like, a case of the AIDS vaccine.
Yes.
With a case of the AIDS vaccine. But
I want to high five you, but I'm not sure what to do right about it. So I'm going to give you a quiet high five.
Yeah. Nice. It's a briefcase. She has the AIDS vaccine. And I don't even know what they're talking about.
Was it the real AIDS vaccine or no? Because I
guess no. It was a fake.
Yeah.
It wasn't even It was a decoy.
Yeah.
I guess.
Right.
And like a military finds them.
Yeah.
And tries to kill her.
Take him out to dinner.
Yeah.
Not kill him.
Take him out to dinner. And it was just so weird. It reminded me of the scene from Happy Gilmore, where. Adam Sandler
has the alligator's head in the briefcase.
No. It was the other one where it was Adam Sandler and the lady that he likes on the hockey field, on the hockey ice, just like skating around together. This is very like Heba and Kathy
on the hockey ice
on the base. Is that what you call it? The hockey court, the hockey ring. It's a ring. Rink.
Yeah, or you could just sit on the ice, whichever one.
On the ice, yeah.
Quack,
baby.
Go Ducks.
You have an orange Ducks hoodie.
I do, and
it's really
I'm pretty
nice.
sure they actually just won last night, like 7-2.
They did? Wow.
The Ducks are having a very weird season.
That's a fun time.
They're a talented team, but at the same time, they suck.
That's exactly what I would expect from them, actually.
Yeah, they have They have one stud player, Zegras, who is he's a monster. Some of his highlights are insane.
Wow.
They signed a couple of Rangers to a long-term deal.
Mm-hmm.
They just traded someone. I forgot who they traded, but they're a chaotic team to watch because they'll beat people who they shouldn't beat. Like they beat the Capitals the other day for no reason. It's like, guys, They'll lose to a team's significantly worse, but then they'll beat really good teams out of nowhere. They're a wild card.
Wow.
They're a joker of a team.
Well, they sound a hell of a lot more engaging than this anime.
That's why I started talking about them instead of Dog Soldier. It was 1980s, and fucking Hebo was a Rambo guy.
Yeah, he basically Rambo. He looked like Rambo. Yeah. He had like the bandana and everything.
And the Dog Soldier was like a clumsy translation because, like, you know, they're trying to like say he's a soldier who moves quickly, and like I forgot why, but they like the dub on this is also very odd because it was Canadian. So like sometimes like Canadian English and American English are really not that different at all, but sometimes you can hear the differences. Like, wait, what did you just say? It's quirky more than anything else.
It is quirky.
So this dub was bizarre, and I'm thinking, okay, they bought this $1 for a ham sandwich and a blowjob.
Absolutely.
So they got the rights to this thing, and they can dub it. And you know, I couldn't fucking follow any of it. Now I'm thinking back to it.
It was really difficult to understand what was going on the whole time. But I guess back to the original point that we were making, like the whole thing surrounds around this AIDS vaccine that Makoto's selling.
Yes.
But he's selling it for money and not to give everybody the AIDS vaccine.
Yes.
Because it's a fake AIDS vaccine.
And the entire time he was going like, what happened to you? You know, we were all together in the orphanage. You know, you used to have character. We fought for each other.
And like Kathy's in love with him or something. Like, I don't know.
It's a weird triangle.
Who she's in love with.
Yeah, no, she doesn't know either.
She doesn't know. Yeah.
And then, so Kathy gets killed somehow, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, she gets killed because they have the final showdown with like Makoto and Hiba, and Makoto is like about to, which is actually hilarious. Makoto is about to stab Hiba, and Kathy, of course, like runs in front of it, and they do this thing where they like flash back and forth, you know, between like but they do that so many times in here, and then Kathy jumps in front of the knife and she gets stabbed by Makoto, and then she dies, and then Makoto looks at Hiba at one point, and his first name is John, which is really funny.
Yeah, John Rambo.
And he's like, John, you die. And he starts charging at him with the knife. Yeah. And of course, Hiba wins. John Hiba defeats him.
Yep.
He stabs him right in the forehead, which is pretty gruesome. To win. And yeah, he celebrates. You know how my favorite part of this, Hiba, but after killing Makoto, celebrates by leveling the Pentagon. By not blowing up the Pentagon, but by blowing up the higher-ups at the Pentagon who are around.
Yes.
And he just kills them. And he's like, yeah, bastards.
I love
AIDS.
I love when Japan randomly tries to incorporate very American topics into their anime, especially in the 80s when America was still kind of mythical land to them. Yeah. They were just beginning to understand for the first time.
Yeah. It made no fucking sense. No. I will say that. Even me trying to figure out how much sense it made no sense.
No, because it feels like we're making it up as we go.
We are. It feels
like we're almost talking in circles, but it's just it was how poorly the show presented anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've seen anime from the 70s that look better animated than this.
It did.
That's a big thing for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was very shoddily animated.
But like really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was thinking of Hana no Asuka Gumi.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So I'm not saying every show has to be well animated for me to give a shit.
Sure, agreed.
If you have a low budget, you got to power through somehow. You got to have either great character work or you got to have something.
Right.
Unfortunately, this felt like Rambo, and they just said, "What's popular at the time? AIDS."
Rambo and AIDS.
Yeah, hell of a combo.
The most popular things in the 1980s.
Yeah, Rambo.
Wow.
And AIDS.
And they just combined them, and they were like, "Here's a show.
Here's 40 minutes.
It's pretty half-baked, but here it is."
I mean, here it is. I mean, this probably went straight to rental.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, this probably went straight to the rental market.
There was no cinematic release for.
No one was trying to buy this shit.
No one was trying to buy it.
It was a rental DVD at most.
Way.
You know, it was. This is a lot of the stereotypes when people talk about like the 80s anime OVA boom.
Yeah.
Because I'm learning this more too. There's a lot of shit that got lost in the 80s anime OVA scene just because there's so many. I didn't realize how many of them were actually produced. Mm-hmm. I knew it was a fair amount, but I didn't realize it was this fucking many.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a big lot of them were produced during that time.
And, you know, this was one of them. And This sucked. I mean, what else can I say? This just fucking sucked. I was mad watching it.
Oh God, it was so hard to pay attention to the whole time.
Yes,
because I really wanted to like figure out what was going on. Because I always need to know what's going on.
God bless you.
Oh God, I just couldn't do it. I was like, I guess I'll just like start cooking dinner while watching this because like there's no other way I can.
I was like tuning out and just writing song lyrics towards the end. I'm like, wait, what's happening
like,
now?
What is this? What is? Yeah.
This was definitely a waste of time.
Do you? Okay, but the thing is, right?
Yeah.
This ranked the number one on the worst. Was it animes or OVAs of all time?
I think this one was OVAs.
Do you think it was?
Worst I've seen?
You've seen.
OVA wise, a little tough. It's
because I don't know if it was worse than some things that we have watched, particularly
some of the OVAs.
Yeah.
It was inoffensive. I will give it that. I wasn't leaving pissed off.
Yeah, no, I didn't like hate it. I guess I just didn't get it. You know.
It was just bad, and I tuned out. But is it worse than a lot of other things we've seen here? I
don't know. Like, do you think it's worse than like an Angel Sanctuary or something?
That's a great question.
Because Angel Sanctuary, I felt like was like in your face terrible.
Yeah,
like this was less. It was just like, what is it?
This is more boring.
It was like, what is this?
Yeah. This was more.
I don't get it.
Yeah, this was.
I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, this one had some ambition. Where Angel Sanctuary.
There's an AIDS vaccine somewhere.
Yeah,
but it's not real. And the Pentagon has it. But then they don't.
But then they blow it up anyway.
And then they blow up.
And then they blow up.
My favorite anime of all time, SpongeBob SquarePants.
You see, this anime was a lot like this episode of this podcast, a rambling mess, which was almost impenetrable.
I like how it always does like echo
yes
what the podcast. Like if it's a very nicely put together thing, like we'll talk about it in a very nice put together way.
But when it's like this, we're just going to talk about the ducks.
You get what you deserve. You get what you deserve.
That's a good point. I'd have to come back to you with an answer on that. Is this? 'Cause I don't know if this is the worst I've seen, just because I'm not offended.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't outright terrible.
I mean, still in my mind, the worst thing we've probably ever watched at this point was Midori.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that was worse.
Significantly worse.
That was Shoujo Tsubaki. Yeah, that was pretty bad. That was pretty horrendous.
I wouldn't call this the worst anime OVA
because this didn't have anything that really like stuck out. Even with things that like Shoujo Tsubaki was so gruesome.
Yeah,
and this just didn't have that.
Yeah.
It just didn't have anything.
Yeah.
Really. Like it was kind of built on nothing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm willing to call this anime, a big pile of nothing.
It was a big pile of nothing.
And I'm gonna say it was bad for that reason.
I think this is going to go on record to be our shortest episode of all time.
Cheers.
And that's fine with me. Cheers.
Cheers.
We'll see you next week. I mean, if you want to watch this, like, I guess you can.
Are we wrong?
Yeah, you can tell us if we're wrong, but I mean, I don't think we are.
I don't know if we are on this one either.
Really terrible. It was really very disjointed and not good. That's it.
Yep.
Bye.
Later.
Yeah, I'm mad now.
It's bad.
Wow, oh my god, what a rousing podcast of anime conversation. Am I right, my compares? Am I right, my weebdom? Anywho, yeah, you can send us a message if you want. Did you like this podcast? Did you hate this podcast? Do you want to kill me? Do you want to drench me in Calaxosaur blood and watch me drink it? That's fine. Just send us an email at badanimepod@gmail.com or DM us on our Instagram at badanimepod, all one word. You can also find us on YouTube as Bad Anime, and you can leave a comment on whatever video you want to leave a comment on. We'll read them all anyways. We don't care. I love you. Kiss, kiss.
Simple Equations Podcast Network.